What is up, and welcome back to a video finally getting back on the 55. So as you can see, I've been cleaning the shop, getting it organized. We got all the other stuff done that was taking up this bay. Got the Camaro up on the lift. Everything's cleared out, ready to get wired and bring the engine down, make some engine mounts, get the trans mount in there and mounted, as well as set the pinion angle, weld the rear end in finally. So exciting time for this car because all the major fabrication should be getting knocked out while it's up here. Then it'll be ready to go back to Dad's garage and start doing all the finishing touches to make it run and drive. So hopefully the next clip you'll be seeing us unload this thing and get her pushed in the shop's resting place to get wired up. So yeah, let's get to it. All right, guys, there it is. I didn't film getting it moved in. It was late in the evening, so traffic was a little bit worse out on the highway. So we had to get this thing in and out and get the Nova loaded up until we get all the parts for it. But anyway, it's in here. So what I'm gonna do this morning, got to get the Corvette moved out, and then we are going to rearrange this thing and get it shoved over where we need it. So as of right now, I'll go back this thing out, set you guys up, and we'll get this car squared up so it can start get ready to get the wiring done and a couple other things we're going to do to it while it's down here. So let's get started. All right, what's up, guys? Getting the engine for the 55 unloaded down at the shop. Can't remember if I've done an intro to this video or not. If not, I'm sure you already saw it before this. But anyway, it's here at the shop and got the engine. Dad's getting it unhooked now and got our cherry picker out with the pneumatic cylinder. And I think I mentioned this in a previous video. If you guys don't have this, you're screwing up because it makes life so easy. It's like $100 from Harbor Freight. And it is so nice. So anyway, we're gonna get this thing lifted, get it out of here, and get it in the shop. All right, so we are getting very close to test fitting, shouldn't even really say test fitting, getting the engine and trans in and making engine mounts so they can be finalized, which is super exciting, but we just got a couple things to do beforehand. We are going to be running the Ram Air 1 style exhaust manifolds to start off. This thing ought to, you know, those manifolds are pretty decent and flow pretty decent for what they are for our engine, like in head combination. So those will do us just fine for now. And I need to get those bolted on the engine so that way when I go to set this thing down in there, I'm not trying to fumble around and do it while it's dangling on the hoist. And that way I don't want to go making engine mounts for this thing, not have the exhaust manifolds bolted up, and then to go trying to bolt those up and nothing fits. So we want to go ahead and get those things mocked up and on there. That way they're, you know, set in stone, and then I can kind of fab everything up around that. Anyway, so let's go ahead, get those out of the box. I'll show you those real quick, and then I'll get those things bolted up. Fragile, must be Italian. So there we go. These are basically a factory style header for the D ports. Very similar to the Ram Air 2 cast manifolds, except for they were for round port and they flowed a lot better, but these are pretty decent. So let's get these things bolted on. And there they are. Got them all bolted on there. They look nice. Pretty happy with them. And had to remove the, this is the wrong oil filter adapter because it needs to have the angled one to clear the manifolds. So I went ahead and just popped the old filter off for now, taped that up so nothing, grimy or dirty or greasy is getting in there. So those things are on and ready for us to test fit this engine and trans again and start getting some mounts made. I can't remember if I went over. We got the engine mounts on here. That way we can make our little tabs to come off the chassis itself. But first, order of business is we got to get this front end off, which we will be doing tomorrow. But got to go ahead and just get rid of this Chevy emblem for now. So I just made some little lines there to cut on because it's ugly. I don't want to look at it. So we're going to cut that thing out just so it isn't staring me in the face anymore and annoying me. And then we'll be ready to pull that off, get the engine mounts made, trans mount bolted in, set the pinion angle, and all the major fabrication will be done. And then we'll be ready to pull the engine back out, paint it, do the front end, etc., etc. We'll get there when we get there. So anyway, let's go ahead and trim that out, and that'll set us up for tomorrow. There we go. Which, don't worry, this will obviously all be cut out anyway because the original grill's going in it. But that's better than seeing a Chevy emblem in it. Not like that's anything to be proud of, but just makes me feel better. So now we'll be ready to start test fitting. All right, guys, so next day, back on the 55, because I've gotten some other stuff done on the Camaro, so that'll allow me to get back on this. And I'm going to attempt to remove the front end by myself. So we will see how that goes. I think I'm going to brace it up with a piece of wood and the floor jack to the front of it so I can get the bolts out, and then should be able to flip the sides off the pins and then lift it right off. So we'll see. If it gets a little dicey, I'll stop and wait, but we'll see how this goes. And as you can see, definitely didn't attempt it by myself. Had Dad run down, and we took the bolts out, took this thing up, and got it stashed next to the car. That way we're ready to test fit the engine and trans, because there's no way I could have done that by myself. Okay, everybody left, and as you could see, my dad come down and helped me take the front end off. I definitely wasn't going to tackle that by myself. But anyway, hopefully Jason's going to be wiring on the Camaro, so that kind of kicks me off of it. And everything else, we're waiting on parts, and or the other one, Jason, is the one sanding on it. So that leaves me to mess with this. And obviously got the front end back off of it, got the transmission back out, and we got the engine ready. So, and we got the cross member ready to go as well. So tomorrow, we'll be setting all this stuff in there, getting it even from side to side, setting it back where we want it, and then hopefully getting it level. That way I can start making engine mounts. So hopefully the next clip will be me setting up to get this engine and trans bolted together and get it back in the car to make all our mounts, and then also get that trans mount in the position it needs to be in, and get everything ready. That'd be a huge step in the right direction for this thing. So anyway, yeah, let's get it done. All right, it's the next morning and got everything set up. Just got the engine hoist ready to go. So got her hooked up. Got the pin out and the handle out, so that way we can get this thing up in the air, pull this thing out of the stand and get this popped off, so that way we can set it down to get the transmission bolted up and then get it mocked up in the car. So probably set you guys up and get a time lapse going of getting all this done, since there's a lot of work to getting all this mated up and set in here. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get to it. All right, sorry for the noise. They're doing a bunch of construction out there. I left off, saw a time lapse of getting the engine and trans in. Well, we're fighting an issue right now, which is why I didn't film anything, but I did get the engine sitting where I want it, both side to side, front to back. So we'll show you here. I got my level up here. So we got the carbs level and the engine sitting at about a 6-degree rake. Well, 6.5 really, and this is at about a 1-degree rake, because I'm taking into consideration, you know, we still got to have the accessories, the radiator, and the whole front end on it. So this will come down just a little bit, but she's almost zeroed out, about a 1.5-degree rake, and that'll come down when we get the rest of the weight of everything in the car. So now we are ready to fab up engine mounts. And what I'm doing now, the main problem we're running into, believe it or not, this is not an issue at all. The stock, the Ram Air 1 style manifolds that we wanted to run are these right here. So they're basically like a factory header. These are really good pieces. Well, on this side, clears the steering box just fine, but goes down and lays right up against the pitman arm. And you cannot turn left at all. So, I mean, you put it down there when the wheels are straight and there's about a 1/8 inch clearance, so you literally can't turn. And I do know they made 2 different pitman arms, but that won't fix the issue because we can't turn left at all. So with that other pitman arm, we might be able to turn like halfway if we're lucky. So what we're gonna do is ditch the manifolds, unfortunately, and then we got a couple different style headers that I'm going to mock up, and that way we can actually dimple header tubes as well as cut them out or swap them out. Okay, sorry, we had some loud noises and whatnot going on, but yeah, basically with a cast manifold, you can't cut and weld on them, so it's easier to manipulate header tubes. You can dimple them, I can cut them out, move them a little bit if I have to. So we'll know more about what I need to do when we get it mocked up. This bracket somebody added on is in the way. You can see it's kind of got some booger welds on it here. So I got to get this bracket out of the way so I can mate up the headers and see which one are going to be easier to manipulate. We were kind of thinking we want this style, but these Pontiac 3 tubes kind of reminds you if it's like a V6 header, but that center one actually does both ports. So kind of cool. These might end up being easier, but won't know till I get that bracket and stuff moved. So we'll get that stuff out of the way and then we'll mock these up and see which ones are better for us to use. All right, guys, just checking back in real quick. And I went ahead and removed the stud for the old bell crank and then got that goober bracket out of the way, which I still got a little bit more to cut off. And these are the 3 tube style headers. So that center port will take care of both, or that one singular tube will take care of both of your center ports here. And everything bolts up and got room between the steering box, which this actually goes gets pushed down just a little bit more when you bolt it up. And this thing will be solid mounted, so it's not gonna be, you know, rubbing or vibrating. And then also we got better steering arm clearance, but it still hits. But that header is a lot easier to modify, like I talked about, because we can just dimple that, and or I can cut a section out and move the thing over, which isn't a big deal at all. So that being said, our buddy that let us borrow these is a big Pontiac guy, and he unfortunately doesn't have a passenger set of these. He just has that driver, so we got to buy them new. Luckily Hedman still makes them, about $300 for the set, and it comes with gaskets, a full flange instead of this individual flange setup. I think these are pretty old. And then comes with the collector adapters and gaskets and all that fancy stuff. So I think we're going to order that and use those. That way I can get to making these engine mounts, which will be exciting. So yeah, we'll check back in and let you know what I decide on how I'm going to make these mounts. All right, checking back in. Got started on the engine mounts since we know these headers are going to work and nothing's going to interfere with the front. So I went ahead and got these started. So I had kind of an idea in my head, and that's what I started with on my template. Just did a little measuring, sketched it up, made it work, and it worked out. So I got one of them already done, not the whole mount, but I'll go over with you what I'm talking about. So here's the first side. So this is basically the front of it. So this will all be welded right here. And then there'll be another piece that comes off the inside of it, comes over to the frame. It'll get welded on over here. Then there'll be a sleeve that gets welded on between as well. And I will box it in from top and bottom. Same for both sides. Got this template made. Used the same template as I did on my other side, but had to shorten it up a little bit. But it's ready to go. I got it bolted in, ready to tack weld it in, just like that one. And then we'll be ready to start on our back sides of the mount for each side. And then once all four corners are made, then I can have them all bolted up, burn them in. That way they stay fast where they're supposed to be. Sorry guys, a lot of construction going on. Trying to talk louder so you can hear me. Once those are all welded fast, let them cool. That way they don't move or warp on me. Then once they fully cure / cool, we can unbolt, take the engine and trans out, box all of it in, put those sleeves in, and we'll be good to go. So one step closer to getting these things finished up. So let's get this one tacked in and we'll start on the back ones. Okay, just checking back in after we got some more of this fabrication done. So I figured I'd update you guys on where I'm at. So I showed you some of the templates I made. So basically I took that very first design and then just basically modified it for each one since they're all just a little bit different. So this one here I used for this other side here and just had to shorten it a little bit. And then this one I made for back here I used over here, but had to lengthen it just a little bit. And I just got my tube made. It's tacked in place and it's all bolted in, so we know it works. So this is ready to be finished welded. So now I just got to get my other tube that I got made sandwiched in over here and tacked in place, and then we'll be ready to go. And what I'm doing, I'm going to get this other tube tacked in to where it's bolted in. And then we got to get the big welder out because the little 120 can't handle burning up this big stuff. So we'll break the old 220 MIG out and burn all this stuff in. And then once that's all burned in, like I said, we'll let that completely cool so nothing moves on us. And then we'll be able to take the engine and trans back out of it and plate the stuff in, weld her up, and things will be good to go. So once we get to welding this thing, I'll probably do a little video. That way you guys can actually watch me do some work. I mainly didn't film a whole lot because I really just wanted to be able to get this done with the allotted time I had. So yeah, hopefully in the next clip, you guys will see me burning this stuff in. Okay, just want to give you guys a little update. I know the next clip, I told you I'd be welding everything, but I figured I'd give a quick update just so that way, hold on just a second here. Okay, just so that way you can see where I'm at, what I'm doing, and I'm not just welding a bunch of stuff in and showing you. So we will start off up front here, and the engine and the trans itself is finally in the car under its own weight. So I am pretty happy. The engine mounts are tacked in. I've got my first top plate made. Now, obviously, like I talked about, this stuff has to be fully welded in first, the side plates and the tube as well. And then this guy will lay, if I can get it in there. And that guy will cover the top. Had to go out around the frame a little bit, but everything lines up really well. And that'll be, the top and bottom pieces like this will be the last ones to go in. So I'm pretty happy with how that one turned out. And having a little gap like that is fine, especially with a MIG welder, especially with a big 220. That is perfectly okay. It'll allow for better penetration anyway. So that one's done. I'm about ready to make the other upper, or the other top piece for the other side, and then the two lowers. And that'll finish out the engine mounts to where we can pull this engine and trans out and finish weld everything. Now, if I can get some lights here, I got the trans mounted as well. Now, this is one of those Speedway Tri-5 universal trans mounts. I think it's good for like turbo 350s, 400s, and Muncies, and probably a Saginaw as well. So, and what I did, there we go. So it's all bolted up. Now, as you can tell, the side mounts, I personally am going to weld them in. You can see my tack welds there. They have bolt holes, and I don't prefer to bolt those in. I don't trust that. So I went ahead and welded those in. That way, when we get the big welder up here to burn in the engine mounts, we can burn those in. So sorry for all the talking, but figured you guys would enjoy seeing at least what I've got done. I wish I could have filmed a little bit more of it, but just time-wise, it's a lot quicker for me to get this stuff done and kind of show you how I did it and what I'm doing. But anyway, let's get to the next clip of burning this stuff in and finalizing all these mounts, which will be huge, because then after that we can paint the engine. So anyway, let's get to welding. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed the time lapses, seeing me get the main stand portions burnt in. Then we got the engine and trans out of it, and then went through, finished, welded everything. They're at the end of the very time lapse. I don't know, the very end of the last time lapse. I don't know if you guys noticed, I stopped welding a little early. Had an error on the old welder there. The wire got pinched on the inside and bound up on itself, so I had to stop and fixed it, and I finished welded the last 2 little spots off camera. So we'll go ahead and show you guys the finished product. I'm pretty freaking happy with it. Pretty stoked. So yeah, anyway, here they are. So these are the last 2 welds I did off camera there. Those 2 little guys, and then finished this little section there. Everything is finished welded. And the only reason I didn't do around the tubes on the top is I want to make sure this stays flat for the mounts on the engine to lay flat up there. So that's why you see the weld stopped like that. The only thing I'm going to do tomorrow is make a little gusset piece that can fit in here like so on each side. That way the inner portion of those have a little bit of stability, which I think the way they are now is probably fine, but just a little piece of mind there at the bottom on the inside to brace them up a little bit. Trying to think, as of now, I think I'm going to test fit the engine and trans one more time just to be sure everything slips together after welding it today, which it should. Should be fine, but it's one of those things I just want to do it for a peace of mind. And then after that, the engine's ready to paint, and yeah, we're pretty much ready to go. And I think this hole right here I cut out for the head because Pontiacs are the opposite of a Chevy. The driver's side head sits further back than the passenger. Chevy, it's the opposite, which is why the firewall's dimpled on these for a small block Chevy. And I actually don't need that relief anymore because I had to pull the engine maybe 3/4 of an inch forward than I had it way back when we did our first test fit. So I should be able to weld that piece back in, no problem. Anyway, yeah, kind of rambling. We got those mounts all done. They're burnt in. Super happy with how they turned out. Everything fits really nice. They're burnt in. So I think the next video for the 55, I don't know if it'll be the next video legitimately, but the next video for this car, we should see the final test fit of the engine with the mounts all done and cleaned up, and getting the engine painted, and probably, well, getting ahead of myself. Before we get it painted, we got to set the pinion angle too. So once I set this thing back in, get all the weight back down on it, get everything bolted in like I had it, we'll be able to set the pinion angle and burn those pedestals in. So that'll be a big moment, getting all that stuff finished. Then we can paint the engine and move forward from there. And I'll probably cut a hole in the floorboard for the shifter as well. You guys will see that in the next video. I'm rambling. I'm gonna go ahead and end it here on this video, getting those mounts all finished up and the mounts welded in, which I need to show you guys really quick before we end this off. Let's see what we got here. There's those. Got each side burnt in. Haven't cleaned them up just yet, but they worked just fine. I was able to remove everything and worked great. So yeah, that stuff's all done. Like I said, we'll do our final test fit for pinion angle, shifter hole, all that stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed this video because that was a pretty monumental moment, getting engine mounts and trans mount made for this thing, and making sure a distributor fits and making sure header fits with the driver's side because of the steering box, and everything worked out. I mean, I'm pretty happy. It may not look like it, but this is awesome. Really big moment for this car. So anyway, we will see you guys in the next video. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you guys then.